Hey everyone! With 6.0 dropping in today, we've got some fresh 6.1 beta information that just came through. So in today's video, we're going to break down everything we know about Nefer, the upcoming banners, and what this means for your Primogem planning. So first things first, Nefer is confirmed for 6.1 with an October 22nd release date. This follows Hoyoverse's consistent 42-day update cycle that they've been maintaining for years now. That means you've got exactly 6 weeks from 6.0's launch to save up your Primogems and decide whether you want to pull. She's going to be our new 5-star Dendro Catalyst user, and here's what the banner lineup looks like based on the most reliable leaks we have. Phase 1 features Nefer, alongside what appears to be an Arlecchino rerun. This actually makes a lot of sense. It's been long enough since Arlecchino's last banner that a rerun is justified. Want to save massive money on Genesis crystals for nod-krai release? With Loot Bar, you're getting up to 25% off compared to what Hoyoverse charges you directly. And to celebrate Genshin's anniversary, you can get the all-in-one pack and the 6,480 Genesis Crystal Pack that costs $99 in-game for just $71 on Loot Bar, saving you almost $29. The process is super simple. Just enter your UID, pick your server, and get your crystals in under 5 minutes. No password needed. They use official recharge channels, so everything's completely safe. And with the reset of double bonus, you can get double the crystals, especially with all the new nod-krai characters dropping, so why pay full price? Hit the link in the description. New users get an extra 10% discount. We're also getting Jahoda, a new 4-star Anemo Bow user on this banner. While we don't have her full kit details yet, having a new Anemo character on the same banner as Nefer is always good. This could be Hoyoverse's way of giving players a more accessible support option for lunar reaction teams without requiring multiple 5-star pulls. Now, here's where the speculation comes in. For Phase 2, the leaks aren't as concrete, but the most credible sources are pointing toward Furina making her return. This would make perfect sense given how well she synergizes with the new lunar reaction teams we're seeing in 6.0. There's also speculation floating around about Zhongli potentially appearing in Phase 2 alongside Furina, and if this turns out to be true, it would be completely unprecedented. Hoyoverse has never run 2 Archons in reruns within the same patch before in the game's entire history. This kind of double Archon rerun would signal a major shift in their banner roadmap, especially considering both Furina and Zhongli represent some of the most universally valuable characters in the game. Nefer's kit got updated in the recent beta, and honestly, this is where things get really interesting from a gameplay perspective. Let me break down each part of her abilities in detail. Her normal attack performs up to 4 kicks that deal dendro damage with a serpent theme. Her charged attack is where things get unique. She enters a special movement state where she can dash around rapidly for up to 2.5 seconds, similar to Yelen's movement but with a serpent theme. When you release the button or run out of stamina, she exits this state and deals dendro damage to enemies. Just a quick note on sources, most of this information is coming from DG Cat, who have been pretty reliable with beta leaks this year. As always, beta information can change before release, so keep that in mind when making your pulling decisions. But the core details about Nefer's kit and the October 22nd release date seem pretty locked and based on multiple consistent sources. Moving to her elemental skill, which is absolutely loaded with mechanics. She charges forward dealing AoE dendro damage and enters a special state called Shadow Dance. While in this state, if she has Verdant Dew stacks, her charged attacks get replaced with a much more powerful version that scales heavily with Elemental Mastery. The skill has 2 charges, and the Shadow Dance state lasts for 9 seconds with a 9-second cooldown. Her Elemental Burst is where she really shows her damage potential. She deals massive AoE dendro damage that scales with both attack and Elemental Mastery. The scaling is absolutely insane, and she also gets a damage bonus based on how many Veil of Falsehood stacks she has. The burst has a 15-second cooldown and costs 60 energy, which is pretty standard for main DPS characters. Now let's talk about her passives, because this is where her kit gets really controversial. Her key passive is what changes everything about how Dendro teams work. When she uses her elemental skill, any existing Dendro cores on the field get converted to something called Seeds of Deceit. More importantly, any bloom reactions that happen in the next 15 seconds will create these seeds instead of normal Dendro cores. These seeds can't trigger Hyperbloom or Burgeon reactions and won't explode on their own. When Nefer uses her charged attack, she absorbs these seeds and gains buff stacks that increase her elemental mastery. Her second passive is more straightforward. Every point of elemental mastery she has beyond 500 increases her ATK. with a maximum of 200 ATK gained this way. This encourages building elemental mastery on her, which makes sense given her focus on the new lunar reactions. Her third passive is the real game changer. When any party member triggers a bloom reaction, it gets converted into Lunar-Bloom instead. The damage of Lunar-Bloom scales with Nefer's elemental mastery, increasing by up to 14% based on how much EM she has. Additionally, just having Nefer in the party increases your team's moon sign level by 1, which gives various buffs to nod-krai characters. Lunar-Bloom is fundamentally different from regular Bloom in several key ways. First, it can actually crit, unlike transformative reactions. This is huge because it means you can build Nefer with standard crit rate and crit damage stats instead of just stacking elemental mastery like you do with traditional Bloom characters like Nahida or Nilou teams. Second, Lunar-Bloom ignores enemy DEF. This gives it a significant damage advantage over regular reactions, especially against high defense enemies that you typically see in Spiral Abyss Floor 12. Regular transformative reactions can feel weak against tanky enemies, but Lunar-Bloom bypasses this issue entirely. Third, it appears to scale with the triggering character's stats rather than being purely transformative. This opens up entirely new building possibilities for Dendro teams and allows for much higher damage ceilings than we've seen before. However, there's a major trade-off that's causing controversy. Since she doesn't generate Dendro cores, she won't work with any existing Bloom, Hyper Bloom, or Burgeon teams. You can't use her with Nilou teams, standard Kokomi Bloom setups, or any of the popular Hyper Bloom compositions we've been using for the past year. This forces you into an entirely new team-building paradigm. There's also been a Bloom reaction adjustment confirmed for 6.0 that's worth mentioning. Self-damage is getting reduced from 5% to 2%, which should make traditional Bloom teams a bit more comfortable to play. The timing of this change right before Nefer's release, who completely bypasses traditional Bloom mechanics, is pretty interesting. Her constellations follow some interesting patterns too. Her first constellation boosts the base damage of her Lunar-Bloom reactions, triggered by her special charged attacks, scaling with her elemental mastery and getting enhanced by her buff stacks. Her second constellation is pretty loaded with improvements. It makes her passive buff last longer, increases the number of stacks she can hold from 3 to 5, significantly boosts the damage of her special charged attacks, and grants extra stacks whenever she uses her elemental skill. When she reaches maximum stacks, her elemental mastery gets an even bigger boost for a short time. The third constellation increases the level of her elemental skill, while the fifth increases the level of her elemental burst. Her fourth constellation gives her faster energy generation while she's on the field in her special Shadow Dance state, and reduces the Dendro resistance of nearby enemies by 20%. The effect ends if she leaves the area or exits the special state though. Her sixth constellation is the game changer. It makes the second part of her charged attack sequence convert to AoE Dendro damage that scales with her elemental mastery, and adds an additional AoE hit when the charged attack sequence ends. All of this damage counts as Lunar-Bloom damage. Additionally, her overall Lunar-Bloom damage gets boosted by 15% just for having this constellation. Well, that's it for Nefer's kit. What do you think so far? Let me know in the comments. Now comes the big question. Should you pull for Nefer? If you're looking for a new Dendro DPS and don't mind building around the lunar reaction system, Nefer could be a solid choice. Her damage ceiling looks pretty high based on the leaked multipliers and the fact that Lunar-Bloom can crit and ignore defense. The key question is whether you're willing to essentially start fresh with a new team archetype and potentially invest in multiple nod-krai characters. Based on what we're seeing from the leaks and early testing, Nefer will likely need Lauma from 6.0 to function optimally. Lauma is the character who enables and buffs Lunar-Bloom reactions, so if you want to get the most out of Nefer's kit, you're probably looking at pulling for both characters. That's already a significant investment, especially if you also want their signature weapons. There's also speculation that future nod-krai characters like Columbina could be essential for maximizing the lunar reaction system when she releases later in the 6.3 patch. If you've already invested heavily in characters like Nilou or traditional Bloom teams, keep in mind that Nefer won't fit into those existing setups. You'd be building an entirely new team from scratch, which means additional investment in supports, weapons, and artifacts. On the positive side, if you've been feeling like Dendro teams have become stale, or if you're looking for higher damage potential than current Bloom teams offer, Nefer represents a completely new gameplay experience. The good news is that your existing Dendro teams will continue to work perfectly fine for all current content. This isn't really a must-pull situation unless you specifically want to explore the new lunar reaction system and are willing to invest in the entire nod-krai characters. With the banner schedule we have, you've got some time to decide. If you want Nefer, you'll probably want to see how she performs in practice with Lauma before committing to her constellation or signature weapon. The Arlecchino rerun on her banner is nice if you missed her the first time around. If you're more interested in the reruns, both the speculated Furina and potential Zhongli in Phase 2 remain incredibly strong characters. Furina is still one of the strongest supports in the game and works with pretty much everything. Zhongli, while not as universally powerful as he once was, still provides unmatched comfort for players who struggle with dodging and positioning. That's everything we know about 6.1 so far. Keep in mind this is all beta information and could change before the official release. I'll keep you updated as more details come out. Make sure you're subscribed for more leak coverage and let me know in the comments if you're planning to pull for Nefer or if you're saving for something else. See you in the next video.